What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Underdog Podcast. Today, we have part 2 of my mock draft, picks 11 through 20. Some changes, some are the same, kind of just like last time. But I actually was just like flip-flopping stuff around this morning because I was like, no, I think I'm gonna do it this way instead. So I did make a couple of changes to some picks in part 2 and part 3, but I think now I like it even more than I did last time. So we're going to get right into it here with pick number 11, the Washington Commanders. I've seen a lot of different ways that this team's going. I've seen quarterback, I've seen safety, I've seen corner, I've seen receiver. Ultimately, the third best player on my board is still available. Just the way the board fell, he's still here. It's going to be, the pick is going to be safety Kyle Hamilton from Notre Dame. And I've seen a lot of people concerned about his 40 time and just kind of like his overall like drills and stuff. And I'm here to tell you, like that 40 time, I promise you, it's like Traylon Burks. It's not going to matter. He plays faster than that. The tape absolutely shows up for Kyle Hamilton. Him on tape is just ridiculous. He's got great ball skills. He can cover. He can kind of play that like matchup box safety role where he's playing the run. He can guard tight ends. He can guard receivers. He can play that true free safety role. I mean, whatever role you want to put Kyle Hamilton in, he can do that. And for a guy like Ron Rivera, who their defense really did struggle last year. They were really missing that piece, I think, last year. I think they have a solid group of linebackers. Obviously, we talked about their D-line being, kind of the big strength of that team, and they struggled last year, but I think they have the guys there. They really needed that guy in the secondary, whereas, like, go make a play. They didn't have that. William Jackson was supposed to be that guy at corner. He really struggled, and their safety group just wasn't good. I like Cameron Curl, but he's not like, uber dynamic like Kyle Hamilton. So I really like this pick for the Washington Commanders. And then at pick number 12, the Minnesota Vikings. This pick's going to shock some people. I don't think the position will, but the player is going to shock some people. I thought long and hard about going Derek Stingley Jr. here, but I ultimately went Trent McDuffie out of Washington. I just think Trent McDuffie's a stud, man. The more I've watched his tape, the more I love him. He's a smaller corner, but he's super physical. Really has great ball skills and an ability to play the football really well. He tracks the ball really well. He's a great athlete. Not as good of an athlete as Derek Stingley Jr., but he is a great athlete. He can play in the slot. He can play on the outside. He's a versatile corner. Can play both man and zone. We like him more in that, man scheme, which is, I think, what Minnesota's going to run coming out of Washington. And you've seen guys like Byron Murphy. You've seen guys like Marcus Peters. You've seen guys like, the kid from Tennessee they took in the second round last year. But anyways, I mean, McDuffie, he's going to be an absolute stud, man. I really like him. Coming out here for the Vikings, and that's probably one of their biggest needs. I also thought going like George Karlaftis at edge, even though they signed Za'Darius Smith, because those two are both injury prone. You kind of need somebody that's like high floor guy coming in there that can produce right away, and that would be Karlaftis in case of an injury. But I ultimately decided to go with Trent McDuffie, as I thought corner was the bigger need. Then we have the the Houston Texans here. And we went Evan Neal with the first pick. They're all about getting Davis Mills pieces. So what better guy to pick here for the Houston Texans than Garrett Wilson from Ohio State? Wilson's an absolute freak, and he's actually taller than I thought he was. He's 6'3". I thought he was closer to like 6'1", 6 foot. Just a special athlete. I mean, his ability to high point and attack the football is one of the best in this class. I think he can come in there next to Brandon Cooks and really be a great, second option for this team and maybe eventually taking over that number one option. But that way, he's kind of coming in there. He's learning from a guy like Brandon Cooks, and then they also have Nico Collins there, so you may see him play in the slot a little bit. But I do like Wilson outside as a receiver. And it comes in with, Davis Mills, who's a young quarterback. They're trying to see what they have in him. And Houston said they're trying to do everything they possibly can to put pieces around him. So why not get him another weapon at receiver in Garrett Wilson, who's an absolute baller from Ohio State. Absolutely love this pick for Houston. I love this fit. It gives a boost to their receiving room that I think was outside of Brandon Cooks was lacking. I do like Nico Collins from Michigan. Last year they took in the 4th round. But the rest of those guys, I mean, they were like relying on like Chris Moore and Chris Conley, and I don't want to have to rely on those guys consistently. So that way you get a guy like Garrett Wilson out there, and he's just, going to make plays for your team. Then we got the Baltimore Ravens. I think had it not been for the Achilles injury, this would be David Ojabo from Michigan. I think undoubtedly it would be. But with the injury, I have them going George Karlaftis from Purdue. I think a lot of people are dogging on Karlaftis because he's just not as like uber athletic, like wow plays like Ojabo, like Jermaine Johnson, like Trevon Walker even. But I think that Karlaftis is already like his impact grade, going into next season, the player that he is great. Like, I don't want to say he's high floor, low ceiling, because he does have a relatively high ceiling, but I don't think it's as high as like some of these other uber athletes. But Karlaftis, he I think the best thing he does out of anybody in this class is he is able to counter really, really well. I think that Karlaftis, that's a really underrated thing with Karlaftis, because he doesn't have the bend of some of these other guys. He doesn't have the speed off the edge, but he does have a great transition from speed to power and the ability to use counter moves, I think, better than almost anybody in this class. So that's what I really like for Karlaftis. And the Ravens have been known for their just ability to develop edge pieces. And I think Karlaftis here is a really good spot for him. You put him next to a Dafe Owe, and you have a really nice edge duo for the coming future. I don't think he's, the highest of high ceilings, but I really like Karlaftis as a player. I think he's flying under the radar with just all these guys at edge that have really, kind of stood out. So I really like this pick for Baltimore. Then we go to the Eagles. So the positions that I had for the Eagles last time were impact. And we're starting off with an impact player here. I think the Eagles have forever been looking for a number 2 corner to put next to Darius Slay ever since he got there. They had Steven Nelson last year, who was a decent signing for when they got him, because they got him later in free agency cheap. But why not take a shot on Derek Stingley Jr.? Absolute freak athlete like we talked about. I mean, the best season for a corner I have ever seen, and he was a true freshman on that 2019 LSU championship team. I think Derek Stingley Jr., if you can get him truly motivated, is going to be an absolute force in this league. And I think pairing him with Darius Slay is an absolute great move by the Philadelphia Eagles. Stingley would be your CB2 immediately out the gate. He can play man. He can play zone. He's probably the most talented player in this class outside of Kayvon Thibodeau. It's just whether or not he's going to show it on the field. And I think he will. I think he's going to. I just think that, there has been a little bit of injury concern over the last 2 years, which, does play a role in this. But I really, really like Derek Stingley Jr. for this Eagles team. I don't think that there's a player that could, at this point in the draft, with the players gone, that could absolutely have the ceiling that Derek Stingley Jr. has. Just, dude, he's a phenomenal player. I mean, the ball skills, just the absolute shutdown nature of him. I mean, if he gets back to that 2019 form, look out. He might be he might be the favorite for Defensive Rookie of the Year at that point. And then we have 16. So originally with 15 with the Eagles, we went George Karlaftis, and then we went Andrew Booth Jr. But with this pick, there's a guy that has kind of fallen from where I originally had him just due to the fact that he didn't work out at the Combine. And he also, there's been some question marks about him. I think he's probably the biggest boomer bust guy in this draft. And I'm a big fan of him. It's Drake London, receiver from USC. You need a guy next to Devontae Smith. I know they signed Zach Pascal. I know that they have Jalen Reagor, who really hasn't worked out at this point. I'm hoping that they can salvage that pick, and Jalen Reagor looks like a at least competent receiver. And you have Quez Watkins, who I really like as your 4. So you need that opposite perimeter guy of Devontae Smith. And why not, have a big target for Jalen Smith that he really hasn't had in Drake London? London's a freak athlete, man. He's a big-bodied guy. I think he struggles creating separation, with his route running. I think it's more like at the catch point using his body as a meat shield that he is able to create that separation. But I really like this move for Philly because I think they have been missing that big-bodied target in their offense ever since Alshon Jeffrey kind of got hurt and never really came back for this team. So I really like this move for Philadelphia, and you get one of the better receivers in the draft. He is currently receiver 2-3 is like pretty much tied with Garrett Wilson. I've watched a little bit more of Wilson's tape and have started to like him more and more. But the pick for the Eagles is 16 Drake London. And then we have a run-on of picks here that are going to be very similar to what I had. Chargers, I still have them going Jordan Davis. He could go higher for sure. With his combine tape was absolutely ridiculous. That man running 4.7 at his weight is just insanity. But the Chargers, the reason why they weren't in the playoffs, and you can blame Brandon Staley all you want for that timeout. Really, the core of their issue was they couldn't stop the run. I mean, they could not stop the run for anything last year. And Jordan Davis would plug right in that middle and would just eat gaps. I mean, eat offensive linemen and really be a key piece in them stopping the run this year. I think that's a great pick for the Los Angeles Chargers, really attacking that weakness that really kept them out of the playoffs last year. And then New Orleans Saints, I still have them going Sam Howell. Look, I like the Jameis move, bringing him back on that cheaper contract. But I think the 2-year deal was really okay, we're going to have him start for a year, and then that second year I think is voidable. So if they take somebody here, which I have them taking Sam Howell, they really like him, they can go to him, after that first year, that contract with Jameis, and, there's no qualms lost. I think Howell's probably my quarterback 2 in this draft class. He's more athletic. He reminds me of Baker a lot, just kind of his moxie and his confidence. But he's more athletic. He's got a better arm, and I think he's more accurate than Baker. Howell's you go back to Howell's tape in 2020 when he had Diami Brown, when he had Javonte Williams, when he had Michael Carter. I mean, that offense was prolific at UNC. And then this year they just kind of changed it to that QB draw, RPO style stuff. But I really think Sam Howell has one of the best chances in this class to be great. He's got a phenomenal arm. I really, really like this move here from the New Orleans Saints. I think he just fits their scheme really well. And truly, I think also is going to push Jameis too. If they draft the quarterback in the first round, it's okay, Jameis is still fighting for his career. I think that would be, that would be great for Jameis too, to push him. And then number 19, I still can't believe that Philadelphia has not addressed the position. It's still going to be Devin Lloyd, who's still my linebacker 1 in this draft class. Lloyd's he's a freaking beast, man. I mean, talk about best, do-it-all guy in this draft class. I think he's Best against the run, great sideline to sideline. I think he made big strides in coverage, the last couple years at Utah. He's just a phenomenal player, man. I really love watching him. He's a great talent out of Utah, Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year. I think, and for Philly, they really haven't had a linebacker worth discussing since like Jordan Hicks was there. I think this is a huge need for Philly. I think first two positions we went need, but also positions of value. There's real talk about whether you actually should take a linebacker or not in the first round. But I think for Philly, this is the right move just because they don't have anybody there. I mean, they lost Alex Singleton, and they really they have Davian Taylor and just a bunch of no-name guys there. So I really like the addition of Devin Lloyd, 3-down player. Can do it all for Philadelphia, and I think would be a massive upgrade to that linebacker room. And then at 20, it's still going to be Malik Willis. I think I'm lower on Malik Willis than a lot of people, but you brought in Trubisky to be your starter now, and I think Malik Willis probably has the highest upside out of any quarterback in this draft class, undoubtedly. So you have him sit for a year behind Mitch Trubisky, and then you see what he's got. Because I think they can still win now with Trubisky. And it's reportedly that Pittsburgh's absolutely loved Malik Willis throughout this process. He's got an absolute cannon for an arm. He's going to have to work on his processing. He's going to have to work on his accuracy. But I'm kind of off the Malik Willis hype train in terms of having him picked in the top 10. But at 20, I think this is really, this is a, good value. I don't know if he's going to be here or not in the draft, but I think this is really good value for Pittsburgh. And even though I'm lower on Malik Willis, I think in this scenario, you have Trubisky, you gave him that 2-year contract. So if need be, you can have Malik Willis sit 2 years, and then really, have him rocking for year 3. But I think just here, I think you pick for upside at the quarterback position, and no one has that upside like Malik Willis does. So I think this is a phenomenal pick here by the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's going to be it for part 2. Let me know what you guys think of these picks. I know a lot of them are the same. I think the last 4 are the same, but I just felt like that was where those teams needed to go. So let me know how I did with these picks. Part 3 will be coming tomorrow. Probably around 2-ish, 3-ish, somewhere around there, Eastern time. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you stick around for part 3, and let me know how I did in the comment section again on these picks. What I did right, what I did wrong. Am I an idiot? Am I not? I'm here for the slander. Give it to me if you think I deserve it. But again, thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great day, and peace.